This is Evan with EB3D Printing. In today's video, I'm going to go over how you can level the bed on your printer using G-code instead of methods like manually moving the print head around or using the on-screen display. Both of those options are completely viable, and I highly suggest using the on-screen display option if your printer's firmware, like Jerry's firmware, allows you to manually pick where you put the print head at. This G-code option is mainly geared towards printers that don't allow for on-screen display manual leveling, or their printer's firmware doesn't exactly follow the methodology I like. I'll give you an example with Clipper. Their bed screws adjust manual leveling option just goes around the world until you have the bed level, which I particularly, in this example, do not like. The method I use for leveling the bed using G-code is similar to putting a wheel onto a car. You don't tighten the lug nuts in the around the world fashion, you tighten them in an opposing lug nut fashion where you work your way around the wheel. This allows the wheel to properly seat itself against the hub. I'll give you an example of why I use that methodology when I level bed. Say you tighten this front left corner down. The rear right corner will actually raise. That happens because the other two corners act as a fulcrum or pivot point of the bed. Now I won't go into the full detail and process of leveling the bed right now. I'll do that in the next section. But you can use this same method with the on-screen display, but going around in the certain fashion that I do when leveling the bed. So that's enough for me. Let's get into leveling this bed using G-code.
So first up, the tools you need. I use a feeler gauge now for leveling the bed. I use a 0.203, which is close to the first layer height. I typically use a 0.2 millimeter. Now, I still use a piece of paper for setting the Z offset. I get better first layers when I use a piece of paper for Z offset, but for leveling the bed, I get more consistency out of the feeler gauge. Next up is a roller of some sort, preferably a metric roller. That way you don't have to mess around with converting from going from SAE to metric. And also because the bed measurement is already a metric, it just makes it easier for doing the calculations later on. Next up, we're going to measure the bed adjustment screw location. You're going to want to start by removing any of the bed clips and remove the bed if you have to. Then we're going to take the roller and from the center of the bed adjustment screw, measure out to the left for X and down for Y. For our measurements, we have 33 and 33. Now, let's say you have a bed, like a magnetic bed, where you can't see the adjustment screw. How are you going to know where to measure for where the location is? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to first measure the diameter of the bed spring. For our bed springs, we have a diameter of, say, roughly 8 millimeters. All right. So we measure from the bed spring out to the edge of the bed. For the left in X direction, we get a measurement of 29 and the bed spring with 8. So we divide the bed spring by 2 and gives us 33. For Y, we get 29 as well. So bed spring divided by 2, we get 33 again. So now we have the bed adjustment screws locations. So we're over here at the printer now, and we're going to edit the G-code file. Now, I want to say that you do not need to edit the G-code file if you're using an Ender 3 or Ender 3 size printer. If you have any other printer outside of the Ender 3 size range, you'll need to edit the G-code file based off of your screws position, which we found out earlier. So I'm going to open this file now, and I use Visual Studio Code. You can use whatever text editor you want, but I highly recommend either Visual Studio Code or Notepad++. This is so when you edit the file, it keeps the formatting. If you were to use an editor like Windows Notepad, you may not keep the formatting correct and it'll cause an error later on. So first up here, just give you a quick overview of what's going on. Anything behind a semicolon here is a comment. So the printer pretty much just skips over it and ignores it. So first up here in this first section, I pretty much have definitions of what position 1 is, position 2, position 3, and position 4. And then I also give a quick little overview of the order that the print head moves in while we're going through the leveling program. I'm not going to go in depth with it now, because we're going to, go through the process in the next section of the video where I actually take it through and show you how to level the bed. The first G-code command that we encounter in the document is G90. This is important. We need G90 for this. You can have G91, but G90 represents absolute positioning. To give you a quick example of this, G1 X33 in absolute positioning takes the print head to X33 on the print bed. All right. Now, if you were to have G91 or relative positioning here, this moves the print head relative to its last position. So, quick example, if this was the print head was at X100 and we did G1 X33, it would move the print head to X133 instead of X33. I hope you understand that quick little demonstration between G90 and G91. Moving on from there, we are going to talk about G28. G28 is a simple home command, takes your printer to the home position. Next up, we have M25. Now, there's a difference here between 8-bit boards and older 8-bit Creality boards and 32-bit boards. 8-bit Creality boards uses M0 instead of M25. I'll provide a link to both the M25 version of this document and M0 depending on which printer you have and what pause command your printer actually recognizes. So first up here, we have our first position. Now this is based off of the measurement that we taken earlier at the printer. So we got 33 and 33 for the positions of our first screw. Now we're going to use those measurements as we go through the positioning. But for position 1, it's very, very simple. X equals 33 and Y equals 33. So moving on to position 2, this is where it starts to get a little different. Position 2, we keep the X measurement at 33, but our Y measurement is actually the Y max minus our measurement. So our Y max for the ender 3 is 235 minus 33, which gives us a Y position of the screw at 202. So you would change your Y position here to whatever you come up with. So if your measurement was 35, you would change your position of the Y screw, or the screw in the Y direction, I should say, to 200. So next up, position 2 for the X position is simply the X measurement, which is 33 in our situation. The next after that is the Y position, which in our situation is for the ender 3 is 235 minus the Y measurement, which is 33, which leaves us with 202. Now, to adjust this, whatever your Y measurement would be, say your Y measurement is 35, that would change your Y position to 200. And then you just come down here and adjust it according to your print bed and where your bed adjustment screws are located. So after position 2, we have position 3. This is the back right corner. This is the X max minus the X measurement, which is 202 again. And then we also have the Y measurement, or Y location, which is the Y max minus the Y measurement equals 202 again. All right. So we basically put those coordinates into the G1 command to move the print head where it's supposed to be. After that, though, we have position 4. This is the X max minus X measurement, which we figured out, which was 202. And then the Y measurement, which we figured out was 33. And then we put that in the G1 command. Now, after we have all 4 positions done, it's really easy from here on out. It's just copy paste. So next up, after position 4, we move to position 2. So we go up here to position 2, copy these 3 lines, Control C, come back down to position 2, Control V. And then we go to the next position 2, highlight these 3 lines, Control V again, and then we're done with position 2. After position 2, position 4, so on and so forth until we have all 4 positions of the print bed adjusted for every position in the bed leveling process. After we've done that and gone through the leveling process, we actually have end print command. Now G28 rehomes the printer. M104 is to set the hot end temperature. So M104 S0 pretty much turns off the hot end. M140 is to set the bed temperature. So M140 turns off the print bed, and M84 disables all stepper motors. So now that we have the G code straightened out, all set, squared away, we'll save it. And then what we'll do is we will upload it to Octoprint or put it onto an SD card. So after we got it on an SD card, we'll move over to the printer and I'll take you through the leveling process. First thing you're going to want to do whenever you level the bed is make sure it's preheated. I'm going to set it to my PLA temperatures of 205 on the hot end and 60 for the bed. Once the printer is preheated, we can go ahead and take the micro SD card that has the bed leveling program on it and insert it into the printer's motherboard. And what we'll do is we will select the file, the bed leveling program, and the first thing that'll happen is the printer will home to the center of the bed or wherever your home position is. Once the printer homes, it'll pause. After it pauses, you want to press resume, and then it'll take it to the first position here in the front left corner. Now, you take the feeler gauge and put it between the nozzle and the bed, and I like to have the feeler gauge be between the nozzle and the bed before the nozzle completely lowers. That way, just in case if it goes too low, it won't damage the bed. And the second position here is the back left corner, and then it moves to the third position, which is the back right corner. And the fourth position is finally the front right corner. Now going to the fifth position, this is where I talk about doing the lug nut style tightening, where it moves catty corner back to the back left corner. After the back left corner is adjusted, we resume again and it moves over to the back right corner. After the back right corner is adjusted, it moves catty corner to the front left corner. After the front left corner is adjusted, we resume and we work our way back around the 4 corners, starting with the front right corner. Next up is the back right corner. After the back right, it moves across to the back left. And then finally, after the back left, it moves forward to the front left. After we have the final position adjusted and we hit resume, the printer will home itself to the printer's home location. Mine happens to be in the center of the bed. And then after it successfully homes, it will turn off the extruder temp and it will turn off the bed temp and then disengage the stepper motors.
Well, that wraps up this quick little video on how to manually level your bed. I hope you found the information informative and it helps you going forward. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. If you like this content and would like to see more from me, you know what to do. If you'd like to support this channel, I have links to do so in the description. But as always, that's enough for me. I'll see you in the next one.